us, you got used to it anyway. And then one day in 1991, as they made the build up, you go, hey, we don't know how this works. Oh, you don't have to do the extra calculations. And then we thought everything went up, but really they just added the tax before we got to the shop. And then they say, what you see is what you pay. I remember there was that saying. And it was, things got a bit exciting after that. Well, all up until budget speeches, but never mind all of that. Joined from the Tax Cafe, Faniswa was here with us. Good morning, and
Good
welcome back to
morning,
the
good
program.
Good morning, True. Good morning to your listeners as well.
We've got some VAT business to take care of here.
Yes,
given
do.
that we promised after breaking down the background of VAT, well, that there's quite a bit more that we need to attend to. Where are we starting today?
Today we're going to look at sort of the different streams of VAT, if you will. As you all know, VAT is levied at 15%, but not everything falls within that 15%
Okay.
net, and also not everything falls within the VAT net. There are certain exemptions. So today we're looking at what is exempt. So basically what falls out of VAT, the VAT net completely, what is zero rated, what falls within the VAT net but taxed at 0% rather, and then the rest of it is then taxed at 15%.
I like how they call it a VAT net.
To catch you out.
Now I'm starting to feel like the fish, but that's okay. Tell us more.
Okay, so if we go into exempt supplies, what are exempt supplies? What falls completely outside of the VAT net? Things like your financial services. So if you look at your life insurance covers, that is not in the VAT net at all. So that falls outside of VAT completely. Your exchange of currencies. So if you've got a rand and you want to exchange it for $1, there's different houses that actually cater for that kind of service, and they also fall outside of the VAT net.
Is this why they have different payouts of the same exchange? Like if I want I buy $1 with rands and I go to house A to do it, I may have to pay slightly more for that entire transaction to happen.
It's actually more linked to the fluctuation of the currencies, because at any given minute, the currencies do fluctuate. So
Right.
if you can look at the difference between, or the exchange between the rand and the dollar right now, and we look at it again in 5 minutes, it might have fluctuated very drastically. And obviously they are businesses. They've got, in addition to the actual exchange itself, their own admin fees and levies that they add onto it. And that also adds to then the differences in prices.
Got you.
And then also issuing of loans. So if you go to a financial house and you ask for a loan, you obviously need to pay back the capital with interest. So essentially what you're doing is you are buying money, in a sense, in that you pay interest, and that the interest that you pay to that house it falls outside of the VAT net. And also with regards to that, cryptocurrency, which has become quite popular over the last couple of years, that also forms part of financial services, and it would not attract VAT at all. And other things that wouldn't attract VAT are your educational services. So everything from your creche to your primary school, your high school, and your university would not attract VAT. But you need to ensure that you are registered with the education bodies that govern that sort of.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're a creche, you need to be registered with
the body, the relevant body. Okay.
Yes, that's correct. And a couple of years ago, just to share a little story on that, I was actually working for a certain company, and we had a client approach us, and they couldn't understand why SARS issued them a letter of demand for VAT, because they were a foreign company. I think they were a German company operating a college in South Africa, and
like a branch of their.
Yes.
Okay.
And to their understanding, when you are offering educational services, you fall outside of the VAT net. You don't have to pay VAT on the student fees that you receive. And what they didn't understand and what they missed is that they needed to be registered, and they weren't registered with the Department of Higher Education. And so SARS was then issuing them letters of demand.
Just as a normal business.
Yes.
Okay.
So that registration is very, very important. And then also what also falls under exempt supplies is the public transportation of fare-paying passengers. By road or by rail. So if you get on a taxi, your taxi fare falls outside of the VAT net. Your bus fare is also not subject to VAT. And
plane tickets,
remember, are air travel. And the section specifically says by road or rail.
Darn it.
Unfortunately.
We have to ask, guys.
But there's an interesting story. So plane tickets would attract VAT.
Yeah.
However, and as we move into the zero rating, I'll explain this further. International travel is zero rated. So while it falls within the VAT net, it's taxed at 0%.
Okay.
And we'll get to a very interesting example once we get into zero rating. So just to round up exemptions, so if you are operating a completely exempt business, so say you are a financial house dealing in cryptocurrency, you would not need to register for VAT at all. Even if you meet that threshold, which we spoke about last week, and you exceed that R1 threshold, because you are dealing in financial services, which is an exempt supply, you would then not be required to register for VAT.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you've got a mixed supply, say, for example, a bank, a normal bank would have multiple streams of income. They've got your bank charges, your admin fees that they charge you for, I don't know, goodness knows what. And in addition to that,
your fees to replace your lost cards.
Yes. There's actually a friend of mine who worked at the bank a couple of years ago, and he said a bank will take your money for keeping your money. That is the business of a bank.
And they'll take it from your money.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's a great description, by the way.
Yes. So if you look at it at a bank, for example, so they've got all of these services, and they also issue out loans. So they would need to register for VAT once they hit the threshold, but the calculation of calculating that threshold would exclude all the interest that they receive from the loans, because that's outside of the VAT net, as you were. So when they hit that R1 threshold from the other VATable services, then they need to register for VAT. But everything they need to do, then they need to sort of sectionalize it, that this is the other services that are subject to VAT, and these are then the exempt services which are not subject to VAT. Yes. And then looking at zero rated supplies. So this is where you are in the VAT net, but you are providing goods or services which are taxed at 0% as opposed to the normal 15%. And an example of this is the very popular basic foodstuffs, your Millie Meal, your brown bread, your
like flour,
cooking oil, etc. Sugar, milk, yes. So all of those things are taxed at a 0%. And if we look at your normal grocery store, it would have a whole mix of things taxed both at 15% and at 0%. And what they do very nicely on your till slip, next time you go shopping, have a look at this, is they've got certain coding which indicates that this one is zero rated and this one is standard rated, etc. And then also international travel, as I mentioned before.
Why do they do that on the slip and not like on the pricing, where you actually see the price of the goods to decide whether or not? Slick.
Would it really make a difference? I mean, if you want to...
Well, it wouldn't, but it could.
I suppose. But then all of this information is freely available, so you could just go onto the SARS website and
But this is now considering the fact that I could do something like that, but not everybody
yes, yes,
has the technical know-how
yeah,
or the follow-through to do that.
that's correct.
But
Yes.
just a question.
I suppose if you look at your till slip, then you know for next time that your baked beans, for example, are zero rated versus something else.
Have a look at your till slips, though. It should make some interesting reading
Yes.
because I think most of these goods, there are more of them than we think, because we just name off the ones which we think
Yeah,
surely.
the most common ones,
Yeah.
and the ones that come easier off the top of the head.
Yeah.
Yes, but there is a whole comprehensive list on the SARS website. You go under VAT, and you just search zero rated goods, and the whole
And who decides whether a good should be zero rated or not?
it's the lawmakers, and the whole purpose of that is because we are in the country that we are, where there's so many disparities between the haves and the have-nots. So to make it more, or rather to make the economy more accessible, or basic things more accessible to the have-nots,
and to make life a bit more bearable.
yes,
Okay.
yes. While we're on that topic, I must add that if you do purchase your basic food stuff as part of a prepared meal, however, then it loses its zero rating. For example, if I were to purchase a loaf of brown bread, it would be zero rated, versus if I purchase a sandwich made with brown bread, that would not be zero rated.
That makes sense, though, because there's a whole different effort that's gone into
Yes.
transforming it from its
Yes.
original state into what it is now.
Yes, there's
Okay.
a whole value add.
Sure.
And then another example that we touched on earlier was the international flights. So to encourage the growth of the economy,
Yeah.
international flights and most things that go outside of the borders of South Africa are zero rated when it comes to VAT. So if you fly out to London, for example, your airline ticket would not attract VAT. However, I challenge you to think about this scenario.
Okay.
Say I'm booking a flight, I'm sitting in Cape Town booking a flight to London, and the airline that I'm booking at does not have flights that travel directly from
Cape Town
International out to, what is the airport in London?
There's Heathrow, there's
yes.
Gatwick. Yeah.
Yes. So I need to connect to Johannesburg, but the airline that I'm booking with manages that whole connection for me. So I will physically board a flight from Cape Town,
A domestic flight.
a domestic flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and then connect then to Heathrow Airport. So because I'm booking as part of a connected flight that is leaving South Africa, then the zero rating still applies. However, if I were to individually book a flight from Cape Town to Johannesburg, then VAT would apply, because that
for
is
the
not-
local leg.
Yes, the local leg, yes.
Got you.
And with that, also services rendered outside of South Africa are zero rated
By a South African company.
by a South African company.
Okay.
I've actually got two clients of mine. One is sitting in Nairobi, Kenya, and the other one is sitting in Dallas, Texas. But because I'm rendering the service physically in South Africa, if I were registered for VAT, I would still charge VAT. But if for some reason I need to fly out to Kenya, meet with this client, perform the service in Kenya, then my service would then not attract VAT because I'm physically outside of the country
Got
as
you.
well. Yes. So there is that distinction.
Value added tax.
Value added tax. Very broad and very interesting.
Wow.
And then everything else would then fall under the 15%.
Sure.
So your ordinary stuff, selling of books, selling of your ordinary stuff.
Commodities.
Commodities would fall under financial services.
Okay.
Yes. So everything that's not exempt or zero rated would then be taxed at 15%.
Hey, man. We learn something new every week.
Yeah.
digest it every day, and come back the next week and learn more.
Yes.
This is Faniswa Mavuso from the Tax Cafe. Next week, what area of VAT are we touching on?
Next week, we are going to be looking at more of the administration of VAT. So you've exceeded the threshold, or you are in a position where you actually need to register for VAT for
Okay.
whatever reason. How do you go about performing the actual registration? What documents do you need? What are your timelines? What is SARS going to be asking of you? Could they actually be visiting your premises to verify
Okay.
that what you've listed is as
Is what's offered there and what happens there.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then also, once you are registered for VAT, then what are your compliance requirements?
Mhm.
Because remember, now you've entered into a different space. Not only are you liable for your income tax returns and everything,
But you get in the bag.
but then there's a host of compliance requirements with regards to your VAT return submissions.
Mm.
Yes.
That is next week. The admin side of value added tax, especially when you get in that bag.
When you're getting the bag, when you're getting the money.
With great money comes great responsibility. One of them is value added tax. On that note, how do they get in touch with you?
You can contact me on 061-874-2546, via email on info@thetaxcafe.co.za. My website is www.thetaxcafe.co.za. On social media, I am The Tax Cafe.
My name is Trusenz, and I also got to get out of here. Faniswa, we'll see you on Wednesday.
All right.
On Facts About Tax, right here on KNR's Moment of Truth. Trusenz, and we do have to say our goodbyes as the invasion is ready to invade in just a few minutes' time. Before that, though, I need to remind you that you could have been anywhere between 9 and 12, but this is where you chose to be. And for that, we are eternally grateful. Thank you for making Moment of Truth your 9 to 12 destination. Until tomorrow, take care of yourselves so that we can take care of each other, which is what we should strive to do anyway. Take care. Peace. And I'm out of here.
We are extraterrestrial. We are extraterrestrial.